Okay, let's get this assignment started. So, textuality, eh? I wonder what that is. Let's see. Google. Define textuality. Here it is. Textuality. Noun. The quality or use of language characteristic of written works as opposed to spoken usage. Yep, that makes sense. Alright. So, I wonder what text is. Let's see. Define text. Text, noun. A book or other written or printed work regarded in terms of its content rather than its physical form. So, the key words there are use and characteristic, meaning that textuality is how written text varies from verbal text. Okay? But hang on. Doesn't that mean that textuality would contradict the definition of text? If text is only written, and textuality is the differences between spoken and written text, then how does that work?
What if we redefine text as more than just the written?
Okay. Whoever you are. Well, Hugh Trappers-Lorax did write an article about how and why linguistics study and analyse discourse. And he does make a very interesting point about text. I wonder if I've got it. Ah, here it is. That's right. Essentially, he believes that discourse is how people use language in different contexts to communicate different meanings or purposes. And in doing so, he defined text as being a product of discourse. Therefore, to him, text is seen as any product of communication that is used to suit a specific need, depending on the discourse. So that would mean that the term text is actually defined as any product of communication, either verbal or written. That makes more sense. But what does that mean for the term textuality? I think I'll have to look at what the experts say. Let's see. What is textuality? YouTube. Yep, here's a good one.
Textualization realigns reality along new lines of space and time, mediated through an extensive range of genres. Christina referred to text in terms of axes, two axes, a horizontal axis connecting the author and reader of a text, and a vertical axis which connects the text to other texts.
Okay. I think I'll have to talk to her. So, Dr. Birmingham, would you mind explaining to me in layman's terms what it is that I just watched?
Well, fundamentally, texts are changing. Historically, texts were considered to be written or verbal. Whilst they are still today, the ways in which they are communicated has expanded largely due to advances in technology, particularly the internet.
Could you provide me with any examples of this?
Possibly the biggest example would be social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, emailing and text messaging.
So how has this affected us as a text viewer?
Essentially, we are far more connected than we ever were before. Therefore, communication is playing a much more active role in our lives. This means that technology has enabled us to access any information we desire straight away, without actually physically searching for it.
Wow. So, how are people coping with this change?
On the whole, people are coping particularly well with it. While some implications are quite scary, on the whole, people have been able to utilise this to increase productivity and become more connected with the world around them.
So, is this a good thing?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because of my earlier answer, but it's also quite dangerous, meaning that we have to be careful of what we do with this technology and how we use it.
So, what has this meant for the term textuality?
Basically, the old definitions have become outdated. Because the range of texts have increased, this means that texts are no longer seen as just written or spoken. Rather, they have become a means of communication.
Could you explain this further?
Well, if you recall Trappers' diagram of interaction, interaction is the key to every text. Interaction affects the context, how it is communicated,
Mm-hmm.
the function it fulfills, and therefore the text itself.
Wow. So correct me if I'm wrong, but are you saying that textuality has now become how a text identifies itself?
That's exactly what I'm saying. As Trappist said, each text fulfills a purpose in relation to the social discourse it belongs to.
Well, thank you very much for your time. That was really helpful.
You're very most welcome.
Thank you. Okay. So, now we have an explanation of textuality, the identity of a text. But what about the person who produces the text? There is another article I read somewhere about the pianist Ravel, and in particular his works, Murillo's. I do remember there was something about him being highly influenced by pretty much every major political movement that was going on in Paris at the time, which he and other musicians portrayed through their works. So, I guess you could say that he was influenced by society's values, and in a way reproduced them through the music he created. Trappist and Dr. Birmingham did say that texts are a product of societal discourse, and therefore fulfill a specific need for communication. So I guess it would make sense that their creators reflect back societal values and beliefs. Hang on. What about texts like Brave New World? That doesn't reflect societal values. If anything, it challenges the beliefs of the time, almost warning them not to allow too much government control. But then again, it was only a novel, and the purpose of any novel is to provide entertainment to the reader. And also, I guess it would depend on the text creator's intent of making the text, whether to enforce or challenge society's views on certain topics. Wow. That would mean that every single text we interact with represents or rejects wider societal values and beliefs. That's scary stuff. Well, I think I've done enough deep and meaningful, so I wonder what the implication is for primary teachers. Actually, I'm pretty sure Trappist talks about the implications in his article. Let's see. No, still scrolling. Oh, missed it. There it is. Here we go. Okay, that's right. In his last few paragraphs, he believes that effective teaching means teaching literacy in its full context, not as segregated individualized skills. Mind you, that is to say he doesn't believe that teachers should abandon explicit skills teaching. He just believes that they should be taught in the context of the discourse they are involved in. And if you do that, then your students would be able to identify text in their appropriate discourse and interact with the text accordingly. Well, I think I'm done here. Awesome.